I think we are live.
Yes.
It's my first time. I feel so special.
Yay. I feel special to be on here with you.
I can't wait to do more of these. I always felt intimidated doing it on my own channel, going live.
Yeah, it's so scary.
It's so crazy. So I feel like I'm just gonna put like a banner saying that this is the spoiler-free part. Let's hope that works.
You have to click on the banner. Yeah, there we go.
All right, this is my also learning / tutorial with Joanna on how to use this platform. So thank you, Joanna.
Yay.
So hopefully some people will join us, but we can just start talking. Since you finished it this morning, yay! We can talk about like how you felt about the book and what you thought about the atmospheric point.
Yeah, so like I read I think 45% of the book today.
Yes.
Because I was really behind on our buddy read. But yeah, I really liked it. I think I haven't settled on a star rating because I think this book isn't a book that you star rate, I feel like it has so many good things. And there's some things that maybe I could see people having struggles with, which we can talk about in a little bit, but I absolutely loved it. I think for me, the strong point is the atmosphere, but also the characters. I really, really like the characters in this book. And the tension at the end, like I was telling you right before we went live.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Hi,
that's the best name, Nymeria Targaryen. That's like the best.
I'm like, wow, that's a good name for like
a warrior queen and then another warrior queen. So
it's like just a baddie straight up.
I know.
But yeah, I struggled with the star rating. I think I was talking to Steve about it, and I was like, I don't know if I should give it like a 4.5 or a 5 because there's like just a little bit, but then at the same time, like for a first novel in a trilogy, it's really good.
There you have it.
Like the first novel in a trilogy is kind of like it's a little slow, but you're like, I have faith because we all know in fantasies, there's like the world building, there's the foundation, and you have to meet all the characters. You have to like see how complex they are. But in this one, it was so well done and so well interwoven. And there was all these little Easter eggs throughout the novel that you got to later. Like we can talk about those later too, because there was a couple that I was like, they were big moments for a character, but they weren't pointed out. It was just told to you earlier in the book that this is a big thing for that culture. So that was
So I agree with you. I think that I struggle between it's anywhere between a 4 and a 5 for me as well. And the reason I would not think it's a 5 is because I did struggle at points to pick it up. I wasn't always itching to pick it back up until the last 40%. But at the same time, it was so well done, for a first book, like you said. And it's a book that's completely different in tone and everything than from other things that I've read recently, at least. And the thing that makes me want to give it a higher rating is that I am dying to read the sequels.
Yeah.
There's some books that when you finish the first one, you're like, okay, I'm happy to let that one sit for a while. But here I'm like, no.
It's hard for me not to. I was like, I will not go further in this series until Joanna finishes it. And since we're doing like the little buddy read for the Bitter Twins, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait. And I do want to pick it up. It is really good. I feel as though it might also just be, when you read the second and the third, it's just like completely 5 stars for the whole series, even though like the first one has like a little bit of things that you may not love for first. Mm-hmm. But it makes me like, I picked up one book by Jen Williams and I'm like, okay, I need all of her books now because I just really love her writing style and I love the way she sets it up.
Absolutely.
So, hi, Melly. Yes, we did talk about it already, but we're doing like another. So feel free to put your thoughts here too as we talk about it or ask questions and things because we'll be chatting about it the whole time. And yeah, that's what Steve said too. He was like, it's just a 5 stars. And I'm like, I can't disagree, but I think I'm being picky because it's the first.
Yeah, I think so too. Honestly. I think that Diana, who was also reading it with us, I don't remember her Discord name, but she's D. Yeah, she's just D. And she was also saying that it's just like 5 stars, And then I'm thinking, am I just being too picky? And I don't know, but it was just so good. It was just so good.
I feel the same way that you feel. I'm like, am I being too picky? But at the same time, like, I have a feeling the next ones are going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, especially with this ending and how, the moment that there's something I love in books. It's when the covers and or the titles of the subsequent books make sense. And I feel like we have that here.
Yeah, because I was like, the Bitter Twins, and they describe what that meant in the book, and I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to have significance? Like, how?
Yeah, for it to be called that, you know, and then the covers of the next books, and I was like, oh, yes. It was awesome.
I know that some people had trouble getting into it. So it took some people about like 4 chapters to get into it. It took some people longer to get into it. How did you feel about like just getting interested in the book?
I think that the very beginning was okay for me. With it kind of had the same start as The Way of Kings with like 3 prologues, you know, with different time jumps.
But that's good to know.
Yeah, you have like 3 prologues, and I thought it was very interesting because the first one is like what 5,000 years or something like that in the 200 years ago, and then you jump to 50 years ago, and then you're like, wait, it's still the same characters, and that's when you then realize, oh wait, you know, there's something awesome going on here. And I don't think that I was it was very difficult to get in because I love getting to know characters and the world. I just think that at some point it took a while when they got together, and when things started rolling, for me, it took a bit of time there. There was a bit of slowness in between pages. I know 150 and 250, but other than that, it was okay.
Yeah, I don't think I felt like it took me too long to get into it. I think because I like the writing style, and for whatever reason, if I like a writing style, I'm just really comfortable with how the book is going. And then it reminded me of just like that atmospheric beginning that some books have where you're not really sure what's going on, but it's still really compelling, so you want to keep reading it, and that's how I felt. So it didn't take me much to get into it. But like the prologues at the beginning of the chapters took me a little while to understand because I wasn't really sure what they meant or who was writing them and like for what purpose. And then as you get into the story, it makes sense. And that kind of reminded me of like, so I just read The Final Empire. It reminded me of The Final Empire, where you have all those like little blurbs and you're like, oh, I know who that is. And then you're completely like wrong in that book. But that's, you're getting like a part of the story from the past. And that was really interesting because you get like a little premonition towards what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's a clever. Well, some people don't like that, but I like it as a way to world build because it is info dumpy, but it's not info dumpy. You know, I much prefer these kinds of ways to info dump than a character talking to another character in a way that's not natural. Like if you and I met, you wouldn't info dump about Earth, you know?
So well, maybe I was like shocked, but yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think it works well in that sense. Yeah, I'm wondering this too. Which weapon will be the poison song? But they did talk a lot about poisons at the end of this one, so.
They did talk a lot about different liquids, how to kill everything. So that was crazy. I don't actually know where the story is going to take us. I think after that ending, I don't know where she's going to take this story, but I'm really excited. And I also felt like the book itself was like an inspiration from so many different types of books. Like it did feel like old school fantasy, but then it also felt like sort of Shannara vibes with like certain.
You're right. Yeah.
There was like so many things about it that I was like, wow, I wonder if the author took from different kinds of fantasy books or if she just had all these ideas and they just happened to be similar to other books. But even still, it's its own story, even with like the similar elements. And I also wasn't expecting it to have the type of sci-fi elements that it had. Like I didn't realize that it was also going to have sci-fi things. So that was really interesting.
Yeah. So what did you think about the characters? I wanted to ask you that.
So I loved Tourmaline off the bat because I was like, yeah, you're like just that reluctant, lazy guy, and I'm just going to love you to the end. And then Lady Vincenza, I think is her name. How you pronounce it? Yeah, Vintage. Everyone calls her Vintage. She was just like that old, like she gave me Downtown Abbey vibes, right? Because she is that old school type of like, I'm just going to get it. I'm going to do it on my own. And it just gave me that kind of Downtown Abbey vibes of like the older ladies in that show. And I was like, wow, she's amazing. I didn't get attached to Noon until like the last half of the book because I just felt like her situation was really dire and that she might have been bitter.
Yeah.
So he does. Yes, that is. Yes, he does remind me of Geralt, actually. Is very true. Yeah. Geralt seems more like more warrior, whereas like Tor is like, yeah, I'll get paid. It's fine.
He's a bit more funny than.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you haven't read The Way of Kings yet, I think. But there's an aspect, but just one tiny aspect of Vintage that reminds me of a character in The Way of Kings. And I like that. You know, it's like the scholarly type that like, I have to have my pencils and draw everything and write everything down. And I really like that because I'm watching Big Bang Theory at the moment, and I thought, yeah, if you have nerds that really care about something like that, that's how they would react, you know. And it was so cool.
Oh yeah, she was just like, it was great to see also like an older woman in a fantasy just kick ass, because you just don't see that a lot. Even like an older woman, you know, without kids, without a family, just living on like her wealth, but just kicking ass and like doing whatever she wants to do, which is like be an adventurer. And you see like young women doing that, but never like an older woman doing that.
Yeah, I love that. It's completely different, and I think it gives new voices in fantasy, or it shows us new voices in fantasy that I absolutely love. But yeah, just to get back to Noon, I immediately loved her because I think I was, of course, biased because of Elle's review of this. But when she said, "Oh, and if Vin from Mistborn were a witch," and I was like, "If she's anything like Vin, she's gonna be my favorite." And she does remind me a little bit of Vin in some aspects of how she is with, you know, staying away from people and stuff. So
yeah,
I immediately loved her.
I could see that. I didn't put the two together after I read Final Empire, but I could see that. I felt like Vin, and this is not like a Final Empire chat, but I felt like Vin was like her own person too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What did you think of Tor's sister, whose name I can't remember right now?
Hestilian or something like that?
Yeah, Hestilian. Yeah. What did you think of her?
Honestly, I thought she was really fishy. But at the beginning, I couldn't decide, is she a villain or is she just so caught up in this desperate situation that she's in and that she's doing things without knowing, you know? And then, yeah, we find out. And so, but we're still in the non-spoiler part. So, but yeah, I was always a bit wary of her.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how that was going to turn out either. There were some times where I was like rooting for her, and there were times where I was not rooting for her, and I felt that she was a very suspect. So I did not for that. All right. Love because of the trust issues. Yeah, that's true. She did have a lot of trauma, and it was
especially reminds me of Vin.
Yeah, that's true because of her brother. Yeah.
But I thought when she was still in the Winnowy, that was so like terrible what they do to the witches there, you know? It was
a little bit like Handmaid's Tale, but like not as subtle. It's like,
yeah, I haven't read or watched. I know nothing about Handmaid's Tale, but
it's just like the oppression of like women, basically. That's like the overarching story, is just the oppression of like women. And it was very much like that. It just like almost like it almost felt like, yes, it was about witches, but it was also kind of like this underlying theme of like the oppression of like powerful women, or like being scared of, like, you know, the Salem witch trials where they would burn women because they were scared of them for being like powerful or having stance. And it just felt like that underlying Salem witch story when we were reading Noon's story in the Winnowy.
Yeah, there was one of the only quotes I tabbed is from the journals of Vintage, and she says, there is, it seems to me, a certain type of man who is terrified of the idea of a woman wielding power of any sort, the type of man who is willing to dress up his terror in any sort of trappings to legitimize it. And I think that's really an underlying theme of the story, like people being afraid of powerful women. So
yeah, I think that's definitely one of like the themes, and I thought that was really powerful. And that's what I really liked when we were reading about Noon and reading about Vintages and reading about Hestilian, because we were all not sure about one of them, and I was even really not sure about Noon. So the only one that I like really off the bat was like, yes, I love you, was Vintage, because she was just such a baddie. But
yeah. I'll talk more about Noon, about why at one point I wasn't sure about her in the spoiler section. But yeah, I agree. And I love the horror aspects as well. I thought it was like really creepy. You're right.
Really.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I didn't notice the steampunk aspects, but I think that's just like my inexperience with steampunk. But they're definitely, like, especially the train is very steampunk. That's very true. Very, very true.
I didn't even pick up on it.
Yeah, neither did I. I want to read. I have some steampunk series that I want to get to and I want to read, but I haven't yet. So this is kind of, if that's like what steampunk is, or the aspect of it, then I'm excited because that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess we could move to the spoiler part, since I feel like that is going to be
Yeah.
a big one.
I think the only spoiler-free thing that we could still say maybe is
That's cool.
I was watching Elle's review right before we got here, and she was saying that maybe people who are plot-driven readers would have a bit more issues because the plot moves more slowly. So I guess if you haven't read it, maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
It's also subtle. Like, it's not an in-your-face plot. Like, we're just discussing Sarah J. Maas, and that is very in your face. Like, Glass, like it's in your, you can't miss it. You can't understand what's happening. But here, you're not really sure what the purpose is, and it's very, very subtle, and it's just yeah.
I feel like it's like the type of book where you pick it up and you're along for the ride. You know, you just go with the flow, you get surprised, you see what happens, and you watch it unfold on the pages. And I love that. I love that kind of story.
Yeah, definitely surprised. I also felt like, so like the relationship between Vintage and Tor was like very steady, very like realistic, very hilarious, but also like not wanting to like show that they really cared beyond being employee and employer. And the relationship between Noon and Tor took me by surprise because I didn't think that they were like a match or whatever, like, but I guess, and that's very cool. The other thing that took me by surprise towards the end was when Noon got her own, like, I guess, dragon, or when the voice in Noon's head, I was thinking like maybe that's like a voice of like destruction, was actually one of the dragon souls trying to speak to her. That surprised me. I was not expecting that in any way.
No, that's when I started to doubt Noon. When she started hearing the voices, I started to wonder, is she corrupted now? You know, is the evil in her, is she being swayed by the evil side? And then when we find out it was the dragon all along, it was so cool. I loved it.
Oh, it was so amazing. And I agree. Their banter, it was so good. Like, I just they were insulting each other, but I guess I just didn't, until like it got more flirtatious, I didn't see that being a thing at all. But I loved that relationship. I was surprised by Hestilian and the tree. So the tree is where I get the Sword of Shannara vibes, because it's very much like that. And I've only seen the show. I never read the books. But it's very much that same thing of like this tree god and this tree giving you life and having to save the tree and the poison of the tree.
Like A Song of Ice and Fire, with the trees and then like the bloody eyes and stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. I didn't expect. I really thought it was the tree talking to her. I was fooled.
Me too. I did not like. It was like. I was like, what's going on? Is the tree evil? Is their god evil? And then you find out that the god had like eaten the queen. Because I messaged you and I said, is this what was her name? Mother Fast? The lady from the plains? Is that her name? Because I thought she was the queen in disguise. And then I thought, is Noon the queen in disguise and she doesn't know it? Like, I had so many theories.
I did not have theories about the queen. I just thought that she was dead. I took it at face value, which is never a good idea in a fantasy novel. Why would you take anything at face value? But yes, that's something I didn't expect with the tree at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's also one of my favorite tropes. And when that came in at the end, and like it even says that they bonded. Like, oh, that's so cool. I'm so excited.
And I love that, like, that was the 9th rain. I love that you didn't know what it was until like the very end, because it makes sense, like, I guess, but it's not a rain. It's the kind of rain. It's the rain that I would like, but it's not what you expect.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting, actually.
Yes, I was wondering about the next comment. I was wondering about that. I don't know enough about Norse mythology, but the names were very similar of the trees. So I thought, oh, maybe I need to read about this. But yeah, though, like, so at the very end, we find out that not enough of those. What are they actually called? The animals that are in the tree. They're like their
name for it. I know that there's dragons and griffins, but I don't know what the name of the pods are as they grow. I can't remember that.
Yeah, exactly. And the dragon says to her, the pods didn't stay long enough in the tree, and so some of them are already dead, and some of them aren't strong enough, and they don't remember anything. He only remembers she, because the dragon is a she. She only remembers because the fact that Noon carried her carried her with her, and so she kind of had the memories again. But so for all the other ones, you have to go back and get all those spirits, I feel like, and yeah, I know I'm very.
And I also loved when Vintage. So I love also the fact that Vintage had like a sapphic relationship with Annie Boren, and that like we got to see. I think her name is Nanthema.
Yeah, Nanthema. Yeah, I just saw
that still frame like loop that she was in, because I don't think that was explained, and I don't remember if she got out or not. But
she did.
She did. Yeah, that was the
okay.
I know you just finished it. I finished this weeks ago. I probably should have like read the last half of it again, but
yeah.
That was a really interesting sci-fi moment. I mean, the whole spaceship and the whole like gooey spirits and then the still life was the most interesting part, because I still want to know, like, how does that work? Is that a portal? Like, what happened? I thought he got a dragon.
No, it's a cat, I think. I think it's the cat from the third cover, I think. Because
yeah, the big black cat.
Yeah, I think so. Wait, I'll find it really quick.
No, I'm not prepared for this. I feel like I should have done my homework better.
Yeah, I don't remember where it is now, but yeah, pretty much he got, because it said it was a paw, so I assume it is the cat from the cover.
That makes a lot of sense that they would have.
Yeah, so I agree with you though. I think that the whole stuff in like the time loop and the pod and whatnot, it's so interesting, and because it is the sci-fi element, it's the element that for me was a bit more like
yes, me too. And also like it wasn't as well explained, but I also think that's just part of her world building as we go into the next books, where there's that whole loop thing. What did the spaceships mean? Like, obviously they're going to have another attack. They've already been attacked, but I also wonder what's going to happen to Hostilian, because I didn't expect her to be abducted, and also for what reason? Like, why wouldn't you just kill her? Why?
I was wondering about that. And they took one of the war beasts with them, like a pod, right?
I think so, yeah. And I wonder if that pod is like supposed to be bonded with Hostilian, and she just knew that, so she took it with her. Which is also, if that's the case, why would you take it? Because that would give her strength, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm so confused about that. Like, why take Hostilian? Why would Hostilian kind of go? Like, is she gonna get corrupted? Is she gonna fight it? Yeah, I don't know. That part I was like, what is happening right now?
I don't either. I don't know. I also thought it was really strange. I mean, this is why I wasn't sure about Hostilian when she was forbidding everyone to go in the tree room with her, when she was having her meditations with the tree. And I feel like that probably was part of her downfall of why she fell, you could say.
Yeah, for sure. I am.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I think that the whole meditation with the tree, it was really weird. And then when she takes, is it Aldacer? Is that his name? The cousin?
Yes.
When he goes in and the tree's like, no, well, not the tree, but the queen is like, no, not him. And then isn't that suspicious,
That was really very suspicious. I wonder, so I guess they're all going to get their own war beasts, because there's only 15 of them left. But then they were also talking about an island that a bunch of them had fled to back in the day.
Right.
And I kind of wonder if she's going to do that cavalry coming in the last second trope, which I personally love, and then they're all going to get their own war beasts. But I also wonder if we're going to have another reign.
Another one?
I hope so.
That would be so cool. I didn't even think about that.
I mean, why not? I don't know.
Why not? Might as well.
Yeah, I don't know
if the tree is strong enough, because the tree seems to be so at the end of its life,
That's true. And I guess, I think what happened too was he ate the queen, and that kind of power made him die.
Yeah.
I guess at the same time his race was going to die. So you eat the enemy, but at the same time you curse your own people to die, because they can't live without your lifeblood, basically.
Yeah.
I hope that that's explained, because that dichotomy between eating the queen to save the Aborans, but then also cursing them, not being able to feed, is something that I wonder if it's going to be explained.
Yeah,
that's a gap to me. Yes. Oh, I think it starts with a B.
It does start with a B. I don't remember his name either. I hope they're getting together. Yeah, that would be cool.
They were so cute. They were so cute. And then Aldasair was very like shy around him. I really enjoyed that like cute little.
Yeah. And the fact that he got more alive the more he interacted with humans, I wonder like what that's about. Because when Thor arrives, he's like, wait, I thought he was like almost dead, and then now he was so strong still.
I felt like that was more of a culture thing. So it was more,
Yeah.
you know, they're just sitting in the castle. There's like 2 or 3 of them, and they're watching their people die. So you just start to like die inside, like a mental health thing almost. And then when you start to see people and you start to see life and everyone's like around, then you're more alive because you're around things that are more alive. So I felt like
this is true.
Mental health thing. But maybe she'll explain that too. Like,
his name Burn. Sorry, I just saw it.
Burn.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think that may be it. Yeah, the fact that if you don't see anyone, you're just alone all the time with dying people, then I guess that sucks the energy out of you.
Yes. And his tarot cards, which I thought was so interesting that he had like Aldasair had his little tarot cards that he was reading from. And I think at one point he was talking to Hostilian and they had like this little not premonition, but prediction is what I want to say with using the tarot cards. So I wonder if I can't remember what it was. But I remember thinking, is that going to come true like later on?
Yeah, because I remember it was something where when I was reading, I was like, wait, don't go away. And then they went somewhere, you know? Mm-hmm. I was like, no, get back to this. I think this is important.
Yeah.
But this is the type of book, you know, I have no idea where this is going. Like, of course, there's going to be war. I assume they say it. Yeah. And so, but like, what is going to happen in the next 2 books, you know?
And that's, I think, the best part of this kind of story is that it's not in your face. You're not really sure. And if you like that kind of more subtle, compelling writing and plot, this is going to be something that you're interested in because it is really subtle. It is very atmospheric, but you don't know what's happening. And I also don't know what's going to happen next because it's not a strict it's not a strict fantasy story where you kind of understand the boundaries because you've read so many fantasy stories before. It has sci-fi elements. So I feel like things could expand or contract at any moment. Yeah. And it would just make sense because there's so many different things happening.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Everything can happen. And I think that, well, the thing that I think now needs to happen is that Vintage and Nanthema need to go back to Abora and then meet up with the other people and be like, what the heck happened? You know?
Yes.
Because they just don't know. They weren't there. So.
And I wonder if Nanthema will have the history because she came from a time when Eborans were so like there were so much more of them in like alive and in the land. And I think she came from a time when the tree was also alive.
Yeah. She's been stuck there for 20 years. So, you know, what did she see? And what about that kid? You know, is he coming back because he's also been stuck in there, but he's probably dead. So
yeah, the son, he's like in and half out. I assume that he would be dead because half his body is decaying and then half his body is preserved, but he's also not moving around in the other world. So
it's so weird. I love it so much.
That part was definitely a horror part. So Melly was right about like the horror aspects. That part, I was like, oh, that's like body horror. That's pretty gory.
That and when the stupid bugs go inside you and they eat you from the inside, that's like everyone's biggest nightmare, you know.
Like crawling out of you and then like, you know what that reminds me of? It's like Men in Black. Do you remember those parts of Men in Black?
You're right.
And they would just start like talking like, that's what it reminded me of, the Men in Black items. Those weird aliens. And I was like, oh, I don't like, because I couldn't really take them seriously because I just kept imagining the Men in Black ones, but that's okay.
I thought they were disgusting.
They were disgusting, but also like what a horrifying enemy to fight. How do you fight something like that? You obviously have to kill the mothers that are creating them or the worms or whatever, but how do you fight that kind of person when they're just like letting out all the insects to eat you?
Yeah.
Especially when their numbers are dwindling, which is why I wonder if that island of Eborans, those mysterious folks that like went and traveled and settled somewhere else, are going to help the war, help the fight, and maybe we're going to just see the world expand. Usually in the second books of a series, the world expands, and it's not just like one city because they only have one city right now.
You're right.
Have more different cities. The other thing that we were talking about on the Discord chat is that there wasn't a map for this.
I was just looking if there was a map.
So there isn't. And I think Steve contacted the author and asked her on like Instagram if she has a map, and she just said no, she doesn't. But like she might commission an artist to do one, because I think there's a lot more interest in her book now because of Elle and because of Petrick, which is how I found the book, is because of Petrick.
Yeah, me too.
But so there isn't like a map. So like I feel like it could expand at any moment, and we could like more cities of Eborans popping up to help or like to give more history. But yeah, spirits were creepy, but later revealed that they killed the souls of the animal companion.
Yeah.
That was very sad to me, and I'm hoping that there's like more souls that like are hidden somewhere, because I think, again, anything could happen. It's like a fantasy sci-fi story, so things could just pop out of the woodwork like unseen, and I think that might be something that happens with the animals and the Eborans, but I hope it's like an interesting way. Yeah, me too.
I agree. I wish there was a map, because I was like too busy like reading to flip back to a map. But I was thinking, oh, before I go on the live show, I should look at the map, and then I forgot, and then now I was looking for it. And there's no map.
There isn't one. Yeah, no, there's no map, which is really strange for how much travel there is in this book. You would think that there would be a map. But again, like, maybe she just didn't think it would be necessary for like her novel to have. I can't wait to read the second one.
How many ratings does it have? Do you know?
I don't know. On Goodreads, I can take a look.
I'm gonna check while we talk, because I feel like it's completely underrated. Like,
it's not as well known. I mean, I think Elle put it more on the map than others. Yeah, it has like 2,400 ratings and 419 reviews. So not a ton, and not a ton of people. Like, I have people that I follow on Goodreads that also have like booktube channels, but not a lot of people that are in the bookish community have read it as I would have expected.
And if you look, I don't know if you clicked, but like the sequels, the Bitter Twins has 1,200 reviews, but the Poison Song only has 850 reviews. I mean ratings, sorry, and then 170 reviews.
Well, we're definitely going to add to that, since I think we're going to read all three.
But the rating goes up, like the star rating, like it's 4.09 average for The Ninth Rain, 4.17 for Bitter Twins, and then Poison Song is 4.32. So
that doesn't surprise me, because I think, again, like usually the series gets better with the second and third book in like most, but I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wonder also if people just read like the first one because they wanted to see what Elle was talking about. But I actually really enjoyed the series, and I'm interested to continue on. She also has another trilogy called like the Copper.
I see it here in the back, the Copper Cats trilogy.
And that has dragons all over it. So it seems like dragons are like something that she really adores.
Same.
I think I need to read that trilogy. I also really love the books themselves. I love the flop.
I know. You said that in your review, and I was like, she's right. Look how floppy they are.
It's so nice to read. Like, it's nice to hold it open, and it's like light. I'm a tactile reader. I love to read physically, so that's like a big deal.
And today I was reading in my couch, and then at one point I was like laying like this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how you lay, because the book just flops right open.
I feel like we should give like the publisher a good review for like how they created this book, because I do really like it. And there's also like no crease in the spine for the fact that it's paperback, which makes me happy, because I don't like ruining my paperbacks, which is why I prefer hardcovers, because they don't show.
Yeah.
So.
But the cover designs are also just stunning.
I know. I really
like, all three of them are so beautiful. They're just.
So this is the second one, which has the dragon on it, which I love, which is the next one we're reading. And I think this one's even bigger.
Yeah, it's 619 or something, or 12 or something.
Yeah, 612.
I'm so excited. That's, though, I don't know if I said it while we were already live or if I said it to you before, but the ending of this book really makes me want to jump into the second one immediately.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know what's going to happen. There's some books where you're like, oh, okay, I see where we're going. So in the next book, probably something along these lines is going to happen. But here, you don't know. Anything could happen. So
no, you have no idea
about it.
So, oh, whoops.
Oh, he didn't really like it. I thought he did.
I still want to read it, though.
Yeah, for sure.
It might just be also like it's her debut series, so it might just not be as good as like when you get used to writing.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like many authors, yeah, like their debuts are never as good as their later works because they're just getting better at writing. But I also want to try it, Melly. I think it's going to be really good.
I mean, if they're just as good as the first one, I'm gonna love it. So
yeah, exactly. Or even if they're like a little like not as good, but like maybe
just a little less good.
Yeah, I'll still really enjoy the book. I've read like worse books. I also feel like Patrick has read every fantasy book. So his like standards are probably going to be maybe higher than mine or expectations because he also is like a professional reviewer almost. Whereas I was like reviewing for fun.
For sure.
My tastes, yeah. So
and I don't know, I think I think it's very personal. You know, like if you are a character-driven reader, if you're a plot-driven reader, I am a character-driven reader, and that's why I really love this because you spend so much time just hanging out with these people. And yeah, nothing could have happened at the end of this book, and it would still have been fine because they're fun characters to hang out with. And I think I told you this, but I was so surprised that there was humor in it. I wasn't expecting it, and then when the humor started popping out, I was like, "This is great! I love this."
well, that's why I love Tor like automatically because he's just so sarcastic and kind of rude, and then Vintage is just like really like witty back to him, like what are you saying, and kind of puts him in his place. So I like immediately loved their relationship the most at first, whereas like with Noon and Tor are just very insulting to each other. But it gets better, obviously. They don't keep being insulting to each other, but with Vintage it's the best.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I'm also curious what she's going to write next because I think these are all like kind of recent. She wrote like one a year, I think. So I think one is in 2016, one is in 2017, and one is in 2018.
Oh, you're right. Poison Song is 19.
So I feel like it's recent. Hopefully she'll have another trilogy starting soon because I do think her writing is great. And obviously like this first book at least is very underrated, and I think more folks who like adult fantasy will like, because if you're strictly YA, this might be too much.
Yeah, I agree.
For an adult because it's too subtle.
I agree. I think it would be maybe too gory. For one, if you're used to like YA fantasies, you know. And I think the themes that are discussed, they are just not in your face, but they're there, you know. And it's beautiful because you have so many themes, and I think people will pick up on different things. Like you can pick up on the powerful women are scary and destroying, like you were saying, the tree that killed the queen, so it died, but by dying to protect the world, it kind of killed its own people. So it's like, it's just like this. It's so good.
There's so many different dichotomies, but again, if you're more into like the fast-paced young adult version and you're looking for like an adult book to start on, this probably isn't the best. I do agree that Final Empire, though, that series is probably a great bridge between YA.
Especially book one. Because I think book two, as I was telling you, it's way more political. So you have to like political stuff. Because if you don't, then it's a little bit harder. But yes.
Will be really good rereads. You're definitely right. Because you're going to be reading like all the prologue excerpts from Vintage at the beginning of the chapter being like, oh, I didn't see that.
I know. I'm so excited to now in the next book see if we pick up on more things, you know?
Yep, on like any little Easter eggs and things that happen. I might have to just like flip through the first one before I start the second one. So very, very excited for that.
Did you listen to the audiobook at all?
No, I heard that there is an audiobook. Not everyone can get it, apparently. There was another reader, I think it was Kate, who she wasn't able to get access to it in her region of the States. But no, I am such a physical reader. Like that's why I like imagine things better. I read an audiobook with my boyfriend in the car when we were traveling, and then I switched back to physical reading, and for some reason physical reading is much more vivid for me. How did you read audiobook? Did you read audiobook?
No. I usually am someone who loves to do both at the same time. So that's my favorite way of reading. But I couldn't, I saw it's on Audible, but then I was already at the end of the book. I was like, I'm not going to get it for the last 200 pages, you know? But I wonder if the narrator brought these characters to life because I feel like they're so, I now wouldn't want to switch to the audio because I feel like I have built these characters in my head in this world that I wouldn't want to hear them from someone else.
And that's why I physically read, because I feel like my imagination is better than anything I could hear on Audible.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like it's like tailored to myself, which is why it's the best. So
Yeah.
But
yeah, and you read at your own pace. So.
Yeah, and I think it's available in most places. I was surprised to hear that there were places where it was not available. I know that it's not accessible on ebook in the States, so we don't
Yes.
see it here. But I think someone said in Germany it was accessible on ebook or something. So
Yeah, I can get it. I'm on the German Amazon, and I could get it on ebook if I wanted. So when I wanted to buy them, I wanted to own the physical copies because they're beautiful. And so they were out of stock, and I was like, okay, so whenever we read it in April, because I knew we were reading it in April, it's like, okay, then I'll just get the ebook if they don't appear in physical format. And then in the meantime, they had a restock. So I was really happy.
That's awesome. I ended up I ordered all three at the same time, which like I do this all the time. I'll just order the entire trilogy or entire series if it's finished, because I'm like, I'm just going to read it. If I really hate it, I'll give it away, but I doubt it. Usually I can tell. So I was happy to order them. Bitter Twins, I think, took the longest to come in for whatever reason. The second one was the most back ordered, but I got Poison Song and Ninth Rain the fastest. And I think Amazon is where I found them, but like they would pop up and there would only be like 8 left, and they would pop up and there would only be like 9 left. Yeah, I don't know either. I wonder if it's like issues because it's a UK based book.
Yeah.
That only in Europe they would have licensing for it, but it's fine. I mean, I have the physical copy, so I'm happy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I didn't know you were in Germany. That's so cool. They're not far from me.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I for sure. And it was so funny because when today before our live show, I re-listened to Elle's review because I remember that the first times when I heard about it was from her. And I watched her review and I was so confused because she's like, and then there's this magical tree, but it's dead. And then there's these bats, and then there's a witch. And I was like, what the heck is this book? You know?
Yeah. And that's why
like, I rewatched it, I was like, it is. Everything she says is true.
That's why it's so hard. And so like when I first read the synopsis, I was like, what does this mean? And then when you read the book, you understand where the synopsis means, like where it's from.
Yeah, I'm from Luxembourg. But yeah, I think I was reading the synopsis the other day for my vlog, and I was like, what is going on? You know, because then they talk about artifacts, and I'm like, but what are these artifacts? And why do we need them? Do we need them to defeat the evil? Like it's all over the place.
Yeah, you have to like kind of break it down because it is a very confusing synopsis. I read the synopsis and I was like, I don't understand any of this.
Yeah.
I read it to myself, I read it out loud. I still didn't understand it. I didn't know who the Jurelia were or what.
Right.
I was like, who? Like, it wasn't explained. Usually they'll say like, oh, the evil so-and-sos, and we're on an adventure to find the like wondrous sword of something to defeat the evil. And it's like not like that at all. It's like, well, there's a city and there's this dude and he's kind of lazy and he goes on a quest to find things. And, you know, he finds a witch and we're hoping that the Jurelia don't attack before the 9th rain. And you're like, what? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. I was wondering about that too.
I didn't even think of that.
I was really sad. I was like, you better not abandon the bat that was always there for you and saved your little life multiple times. Yeah.
I wonder if the bats will be like another part of like the little animal companion army, and we'll have like witches, you know, like almost like the 13, because then the fell witches reminded me of the 13.
Yeah.
Just the way that they were like very traumatized and like very used and very like rugged.
And that the scene with the kids, sorry to interrupt you, but I just almost forgot. You know when they were like cutting the kids' fingers off because the witch had a baby? Like, what is wrong with the Winnowy? Like, scary.
Where they were, no, but that's how they were like oppressing her because she had a baby, and they were like, I don't know what's the word, incentivizing her by cutting off her son's fingers or threatening to do so.
And it's so sad because when she talks about why she had the baby, it was just because she missed the physical touch of someone.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even, ooh, I love this guy. It was just like they deprived them of everything. And so, yeah, it's insane.
And also, like, wasn't it? It was someone in the Winnowy, like it was one of the guards who did it with her or something. So, like, why are you punishing the witch and not the guard? Because the witch can't leave her cell and then go have sex with the guard. It's definitely the guard doing this, or like whoever did it with her. But I can't remember what I was talking about before.
That the witches remind you of the 13.
Yes, that also, and they're little dragons. But the dragons are not actually dragons, except for Noon. They're actually bats. And I wonder if he'll get given to another witch as like a companion, which I would be okay with. But I don't want them to forget about Fulcor either.
No.
Fulcrum in the 5th season. Yeah, that too.
You're right.
Oh, I think the Fulcrum was less evil. I think it was a little bit less what's the word? I think a little bit less traumatic or traumatizing. They were definitely oppressive in the Fulcrum, but they weren't as, I don't know, mean. I don't remember it as being as traumatic as the Winnowy.
Maybe not as exploiting, you know?
Mm-hmm. Not as extreme.
Yeah.
But definitely still bad.
For sure. Yeah, I think you're right about the witches. I'm so excited to see more of it, you know, and that they stop being scared of their own power, that they just let themselves live, and I hope that they get to be a big part of this war, actually.
I do too. The one thing about their powers is that they're not trained. They're only trained to just like expel huge amounts of power so that they can make flame for the Winnowy. But the assassin witch has like a lot of training, and then Noon was able to kind of train herself by seeing that and by the help of like the dragon voice, because the dragon also has its own flame. So I also wonder if they're going to be like the leaders of like the witch army and teach, when the witches are free, teach the witches how to use their powers.
And if the witches bond with some of those war beasts, then maybe they can help them just like the dragon helped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I also want to see other war beasts because we were promised griffins and I didn't get one, really.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, why did we put this on the cover of the first book, then put a bat?
You know? I was wondering, like, if the paw is a cat or like this, but maybe it's just a cat.
Right. I didn't even see that this was a paw. Yeah, you're right.
So I was wondering, like, is it a black? I mean, I would be okay with a black cat or a griffin, but I was wondering if it was a griffin because.
You're right, absolutely. I didn't even see that he had paws.
I want to see like the bigger picture of like, is it going to be a griffin? What's going to happen?
I'm going to start it soon, I think. You're making me want to read it.
I'm reading my other book. I think once I finish the one I'm reading now, I will start this one.
Yeah, I need to read the one for our secret project first.
That's what I'm doing right now, and also for V's live show later on.
Yeah. Now I need to actually get cracking. But did you read the synopsis of the second book?
I have not. Should we read it?
Yes, let's do it.
I can say it out loud. I know, like, it's just me and you and Melly, but we're all just gonna read this. All right. So, the bitter twins. The 9th rain has fallen. The Jurelia have returned, and with Ibora, a shadow of its former self, the old enemy are closer to conquering Sarn than ever. Tourmaline the Oathless and the Fellwitch Noon have their hands full dealing with the first war beast to be born in Ibora for nearly 300 years. See, they say the first, so I'm going to assume that we maybe have another one. I'm hoping.
Maybe, yeah, I think so.
But these are not the great mythological warriors of old, hatched too early and with no link to their past lives. The war beasts have no memory of the many battles they have fought and won, and no concept of how they can possibly do it again. The key to uniting them, according to the scholar Vintage, may lie in a part of Sarn no one really believes exists, but finding it will mean a dangerous journey at a time of war. And I think that that's going to be the island, because that's been mentioned like very cryptically a couple of times.
And they thought that the people had actually just died on their boats. So
yes, they did.
Right.
Says, meanwhile, Hystilian is trapped on board the Corpse Moon, forced into a strange and uneasy alliance with the Jurelia Queen. Something terrifying is growing up there in the heart of the behemoth, and the people of Sarn will have no defense against these new monsters. All right, well, that's freaking terrifying. No defense? I hope he gets some animal companions. He deserves them.
He deserves one. He deserves a cat or a griffin.
Or even a dragon, because he has, no hands. He has, like, both of these things.
This is true. The synopsis sounds so cool.
It sounds so good. And I love that Vintage is, like, the expert on it, right? Like, she's like, well, according to my research.
Listen, guys. There was another quote I tabbed, but I don't remember what it was. So wait, I want to see what it is.
Tell us.
Oh yeah, no, okay. It was just like something completely random. It was it's vintage talking with Tor, I think. And oh yeah, and they say, although I think having a father with her when she was growing through her tender years would have been better an effort at making the world safer for your daughter. Okay, yeah, and that was completely random. I really like that quote, but I don't know. I was like, oh, maybe this is a world thing, but since it's at the beginning of the book, but no. But yeah, I'm so excited for the sequel. Oh, now even more.
What are your final thoughts on like Ninth Reign? Just like final thoughts.
Okay, I think that I think I'm gonna settle on my 5 stars, to be honest, after we talked about it now, because I think that for me, the point that wasn't as strong was there was a point in the middle where it kind of lost me. It was a bit slow, which I usually don't mind, but it made it that I was reading faster paced books along it, and so it always was like the book that I didn't want to pick up because the other ones were advancing much faster. But I think that the payoff was really, really worth it.
Yeah.
And I love the characters, and I'm really interested in seeing what is going to happen in the sequels. So my final thoughts are: I think that for someone who is interested in adult fantasy but is not new to it, it's a very good book, and that the characters are great and the world building is like so interesting. Honestly, the world building. I've only ever read the 5th season by Jemison, but it does remind me a little bit of that, where it's completely weird and yet so interesting, like sci-fi, fantasy, a mix of both. So yeah, I really liked it a lot. I'm so excited for the sequels.
Very, very. I agree with that. I think it is, if you like adult fantasy, but you're not super new to it, or if you like the 5th season, those kinds of atmospheric type of books where you don't know a lot, you're going to like this. But it's not something that you should dip your toes in if you're new to adult fantasy. I think I'll probably settle on a 5 stars because I think the book deserves it, even though there were some points that I didn't really love and really they didn't feel like totally completely fleshed out. What was I going to say? I feel like the trilogy as a whole is going to be a 5 stars for me. I think I'm going to really enjoy it and really love it. And it's going to be one of those things like the 5th season where it's going to be great with a reread because there's so much going on. I'm excited for the next book actually quite a lot. So.
Yeah, and I think someone like Angela, I think she will really like it because she loves Jemison, and I think that if you like those kinds of books, just like fantasy and sci-fi and introspective, but yet with a super fun and also a mystery at its heart, you know? I think
it is. There's a mystery in it that they're trying to discover. They're discovering their world and we're discovering it through them. So a lot of it is that too. And I'm hoping for another Reign because I think that would be really interesting. And I'm also hoping for like that mysterious land and that like Indian trope, which I really, really hope that, and I love it. So I hope that it's there.
Yeah, and I think that Hystilia's chapters are going to be very interesting now.
I think I'm also scared now because I think that it's going to be really, really bad. I think this is going to be like heartbreaking second book now that I read the synopsis, but
yeah, I think it's going to be when we finish the second, we'll want to pick up the third immediately.
Yeah, I think so too.
You better schedule the next buddy read already.
It's going to be like, all right, guys, no promises on being able to wait after I pick up the second book. So I'm going to do like the books that I have to read, and then I'm going to pick up the second book and then just plan on probably binging everything.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be too hard to like separate them. But yeah.
Right.
Thank you for joining me on this live show, my first live show to discuss this like really amazing book, which I hope more people are going to pick up and read so they can discuss it with us. And then maybe we could have one when we finish the trilogy and just like discuss everything as a whole because I feel like we're going to have so many things to talk about. So
for sure.
Thank you
for having me.